Question number 10 is a page full of algebraic manipulation and it's worth a total of 9 marks. So loads of marks available here, guys, for doing all of the things that you've probably studied quite hard for in class. Question part A is expand, and we know that expand mathematically means multiply. So we're going to do x multiplied by x, and we're going to do x multiplied by positive 2. So step 1, x multiplied by x. Anything times by itself in maths is squared, so x times x is x squared, and then x multiplied by 2, so 2 lots of x is 2x, and make sure you don't forget here that there's a plus sign here. There's also an imaginary plus sign here that hasn't been written because we don't need to, so a plus and a plus makes a plus overall. Part B is like an extension of the first question where we've got 2 linear brackets and they're being added together, so the question now moves from just an expand to also simplify. So we've got 2 stages here. First thing we're going to do is 3 lots of y, which is 3y, and we're going to do 3 lots of positive 2, which is plus 6, and then on our second single bracket we're going to do 4 lots of x, which is 4x, and then we're also going to do 4 lots of negative 1, so we need to be careful here. So 4 lots of 1 is 4, the 4 was positive, the 1 was negative, and a positive and a negative make a negative. So we've now ticked off, if you like, our expand part. To simplify, in maths that means to gather like terms. So here I have some y's. There are no other y's in the question, so I'm not going to be able to simplify any further. So that's just going to remain as positive 3y. Here I have some numbers all by themselves. And here I also have some numbers all by themselves, so they can go together. But notice I've not just circled the 6, but I've circled that it was positive 6. And I haven't just circled the 4, I've circled that it was a negative 4. So we end up with positive 6 on our number line, so we're at plus 6 so far. And then we subtract 4, so we end up at positive 2. Here finally I have some x terms, and there are no other x terms in the question for it to go with. So that remains as a positive 4x. If you got your answers in a different order, as long as each of the terms was positive, it doesn't actually matter the order in which you wrote them finally. Part C is a quadratic because we've got 2 brackets, very similar to the question above, but they're touching each other. There's no term in between. And it's named as a quadratic because there's going to be 4 parts to our operation. We're going to be doing the 2t multiplied by t and the 2t multiplied by 5. And then similarly we're going to be the negative 3 times by t and the negative 3 times by the 5. There's various ways of doing this. Probably you've been taught to use the grid. I'm going to use what I call the claw method here. So arrow number 1 here is 2t multiplied by t. And we do this in 3 stages. We do the numbers first. So 2 multiplied by 1, which we don't need to write in algebra. So 2 times 1 is 2. Now we're going to do the letters, so t multiplied by t is t squared, and then we're going to do the symbols. So those are our 3 stages, numbers, letters and symbols. This is positive and this is positive, making this positive. Arrow number 2 then, following the same 3 stages, numbers, 2 multiplied by 5 is 10, letters, t multiplied by no other letters is just t, and symbols, positive and positive makes a positive. Arrow number 3 here, numbers, 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. Letters, t multiplied by no others is t. And symbols, negative and positive makes negative. And finally arrow number 4 here, the minus 3 times the plus 5. Numbers, 3 times 5 makes 15. Letters, well there aren't any on either term. Symbols, negative and positive makes negative. So that's our expand part done. Now we need to simplify. And like with the question above, anything where they have same terms can go together. The order in which I've done it means that the 2 middle terms can go together because they're both t's. Please don't fall into the trap of thinking this is also a t term. It's a t squared term, so it's treated separately. So I only have 1 squared term, so that has to stay as it is. Here I've got positive 10 subtract 3, so that gives me positive 7. And then the negative 15 here has no other single number terms it can go with, so that has to stay by itself as well. Part D is we move to the opposite of expand, which is factorise, and you'll notice on this question it asks us to factorise fully. That's the examiner's way of saying you must find the biggest factor. What I like to do here is I like to decompose the question, so I break it down. So 8a squared is the same as 8 times a, and 12a is the same as 12 times a. What I can now do is I can see the common factors, i.e. things that appear in both parts of the expression. So both parts have a number, 8 and 12, and I need to use my times table knowledge to think about the biggest number that goes into 8 and into 12 with no remainder, and in this example that's going to be 4. Is there anything else that appears here and also appears here? Well, there's an a term in both of them, so I'm going to take that out, and that's also going to become part of my factor because it appears in both places. So my highest common factor, which is going to go outside my expression, is now 4a, and what I need to ask myself is what terms do I need inside that when I multiply them by 4a are going to give me this original expression. So 4a multiplied by something gives me 8a squared. Well, I know 4 times 2 is 8, so I've sorted that bit out. A times by something else has to give me a squared. That's going to have to be a, and I can check over here. That's that a there that I haven't used yet. So 4a multiplied by 2a is 8a squared. And then at the end here, 4a multiplied by something is 12a. Well, I know that 4 multiplied by 3 is 12. I've already got the a to give me my 12a, so that will be my final answer. The final one is going to be a quadratic, and I know it's a quadratic because I have a squared term and a letter term and a number term, much like part C when we were up here a couple of minutes ago. So my answer is going to be a quadratic. That means it has 2 brackets. I know that my y squared is going to be formed from y multiplied by y, so I can fill that in. So all I'm left to find is the 2 numbers here and also whether they're positive or negative. So I need to find 2 numbers that multiply to make 2. Well, I can only think of 1 times 2. So one of these is going to be a 1 and one of these is going to be a 2, and it doesn't matter which way around you've put them. And I know that when I multiply them together it has to give me a negative 2, and when I add them together to form my middle term it has to give me negative 1. So I could have plus 1 and plus 2, but that would give me plus 3 if I added it together, so they're not going to both be positive. I could have minus 1 minus 2, but that would give me minus 3 when I added them together, so that's not what I wanted either. I could have plus 1 minus 2, well that would give me minus 1, which is what I want, but let's double check the other last combination. I could have minus 1 plus 2, but that would give me positive 2, so the combination I want is when the 1 is positive and the 2 is negative. And it would always be good at this point if we expanded this back out to check that it gave us the question to start with.